ceremony, that baccalaureate. And I know that many, many of you have drawn beautiful high school sketches. But now you must show them not only to your family, but to others who can either open or close doors for you. The school counselors don't discard your records tomorrow just because you graduated. They will tell you that past graduates show up all the time in the office, requesting their high school records from years past. This picture may support you, it may dog you, it may come to your aid. Our past can be our propeller, or it can be our anchor. The sooner your new path is established, however, the sooner the old one fades away, whether it was good or bad. And that's okay. We heard much about Walt Whitman and Leonardo da Vinci at the award ceremony the other night, didn't we? You can bet that their first writings or their first paintings were not their best. Rarely does an athlete have his best year as a rookie. My first year of teaching was not my best. Ask your parents about their first efforts. Quick story, a little girl ran to her grandfather, jumped into his arms, and gave him a great big hug. Then she ran her fingers along his balding head and his wrinkled face. "Did God make you, Granddad?" she asked. "Yes, honey, He made me," he replied gently. She felt then her own cheek and then asked, "Did God make me too?" "Yes, honey, He made you too." "Well," she shrugged, "don't you think He's doing a better job than they used to?" According to the little girl, apparently even his work gets better. And you know what? None of us should want to draw our best picture yet. Last month I attended my son Beck's graduation at Miami of Ohio University, and the speaker was the CEO of a Pepsi company. Her name was Indra Nooyi, and she's one of the most influential female business executives in the world. And one of her mentors was the great statesman Henry Kissinger, who once related the story of how he had asked one of his speechwriters to write a speech for an upcoming address. So the speechwriter works diligently on this speech and finally brings it to Kissinger. Several hours later, Kissinger handed it back to the writer asking, "Is this the best you can do?" Well, somewhat deflated, the speechwriter left the office and went back to rewriting. Over several days and 3 more submissions, Kissinger did the same thing, thrusting the paper back at him, saying, "Is this the best you can do?" Exasperated and exhausted, finally the speechwriter nervously brought the speech to Kissinger, and when he was confronted by the same question, the writer said, "Well, actually, sir, yes. This is the best that I can do." Kissinger looked at him and said, "Okay, now I'll read it." That speechwriter got better because something tough was required of him. Expectations had been high, and good enough was not going to be acceptable. He was stretched to do better. As parents and teachers and coaches, that's what we've been asking of you, or should have been asking for you over the last 18 years. Some of you might not have always liked that. Some of you saw the value in that and thrived. Some of you will get that later. Let me give you an example of later from this very stage. One of my classmates and very best lifelong friends is a guy by the name of Jim Clausen. Some of you in this room will know him or remember him. I had his permission to tell his story. At Maple Grove, he was just not academically motivated. He claims to have finished somewhere in the bottom quarter of his graduating class, our graduating class. 1970. Few doors were going to be open to Jim. One big door that was open to all of us guys back at that time, some of you are probably sitting in the room, was something called the draft. Basically a ticket to Vietnam. College admission exempted us from the draft while in school. Lots of guys went to school. So with the help of a college football coach, he landed at RIT in Rochester in a work-study program. There he blew out his knee and continued to impress no one with his classroom performances. Jim met his future wife Janet, eventually graduated, followed Janet to Maryland, worked briefly for a construction company, and then answered a newspaper ad to be a property manager for a company that was involved in the revitalization of the Baltimore area. He worked long hours, long weeks, caught the boss's eye, and within a year and a half was promoted to executive property manager. Within 7 years, Jim was president of the company, Maryland Management. Today he owns that company. Its assets spread countrywide with nearly 500 employees. Jim Clausen is the same guy, same nice guy who grew up at the base of Bellevue Road, graduated with me some 41 years ago from this very room. I've told him many times how proud I am of him for his success when I would observe students sitting in my classroom performing not up to what they could or should. I would think of Jim, and it taught me, and should teach all of us, that you can't write anybody off. Jim has so many other positive attributes that actually trumped his unimpressive academic record. He has a friendly, easygoing nature, can communicate, is willing to work hard. He's smart in the ways he needs to be smart, aggressive when he needed to be. When I asked his permission to tell his story, he wrote back these words: "Everyone learns in different ways. The important thing in life is to not quit. The real race starts when you finish your formal education. Everyone has 168 hours a week to spend, and how you decide to use that time makes a difference. My definition of success is very simple. Produce more than you consume, be happy, leave the world a little better than you found it." Jim made the most of his situation. He acted, he took advantage. So did thousands of other young graduates who have graced the stage and went out these very doors. I really want you to hear this. People do leave this little school, and they do go out and do good things, and they do great things. You can too. Those things don't have to be fantastic, but they should be positive and productive. I love to sail. While Brenda and I were in the South this winter, I met a sailor with a t-shirt that said this: "The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist hopes the winds will change. The realist adjusts his sails." Pessimism never is a game plan, while being an optimist is great. Hoping is still passive. Adjusting, however, is a strategy and an action plan. My dad was a thoughtful man. He loved those brief musings that made you stop and think, like the ones hanging in every hallway here at Maple Grove. After he passed away, I found a folder full of them, and one of them fits perfectly here. He says, there are two kinds of people in this world, those who wish and those who will. The wishers wish to be rich, wish to be famous, wish to own a business, wish to own a fine house. The ones who will, they don't wish. They start out and do. For those of you with many doors to choose from, congratulations. You have earned them, but even when choices have been few, historically, generations of Americans have still been very productive. You and yours can be too. Even in these tougher times, I pray that your generation will forge a future which will provide for you and your families to come great opportunities. That CEO from Pepsi told the Miami graduates that they need to be ready to fill jobs 5 years from now that are not even invented yet. She said to expect and be willing to interact and work side by side with people from different ethnicities, different backgrounds, and expect to perhaps work abroad. My son Todd confirms this observation with his schooling and work in Pittsburgh. Prepare yourself to jump into that world. I confess to channel flipping one afternoon. I'm an old retired guy now. And I glimpsed a Dr. Phil show about twin boys in their mid-20s who were still living at home, not working, mooching off of mom and dad, causing some real stress. Being the father of twin 22-year-olds, I got real interested real fast. One of the boys, get this, was whining that he should have the right to decide to mature more slowly. And that mom and dad should be okay with that. Sorry, but that's not how it works in the healthy animal kingdom. I urge you not to become one who waits for the winds to change. Don't move into that mindset of a sense of entitlement that seems to be becoming more and more common and acceptable. You are young, and you are strong, and you are healthy. Remember what Jim said, be productive and be happy. Get up each day with, yes, I get to go do that today. In closing, I believe there's a plan for your life, but you need to be open to that. Listen to your own head, your own heart, your own gut. Seek advice and leadership only from those who have your best interest in mind. In the song called The River, about the analogy between sailing and life, Garth Brooks says in the chorus, I'll never reach my destination if I never try. So I'll sail my vessel till the river runs dry. Another great song on this message is by Leanne Womack, called I Hope You'll Dance. One verse says, I hope you'll never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean taking chances, but they're worth taking. In the chorus she says, when we get the chance to sit it out or dance, I hope you'll dance. So, go, sail, dance, keep drawing better etch-a-sketches, choose, will it, and be confident. And always be good to Mother Earth. Congratulations. Thank you.
And now to present the class gifts, the senior class officers.
Thank you all for coming tonight. As you walked in, there was a video playing on the screen of all our senior memories, and that was made by Mr. Clark and his information conversions class. So first, we'd like to thank them. We kind of like the idea of videos and the good memories that they bring back. So for our class gift, we're going to have a video screen installed in the main lobby that will play pictures from homecoming, prom, the all-night lock-in, things like that.
First, we'd like to thank Mr. Cummings for joining us this year as a senior advisor. It's been really fun, even though you blinded all the sleeping people on the bus ride home with your lightsaber. We'd also like to thank Mrs. Morrison, who has dealt with us since 10th grade. We'd like to thank you for always putting up with us through all the years. We know you haven't always loved us, but we've always loved you. We'll miss you dearly next year. Thank you. And lastly, we'd like to thank Mr. Llewellyn. The class of 2011 would like to thank you for speaking on our behalf by contributing towards the scholarships that are given in both of your parents' names. Thank you.
The now to present the class of 2011, Mr. Edward Turquez, along with Mr. Tom Shagla, to present the diplomas.